At 6 months of age, we were adopted. I know that my parents saw us one day, had about a month to finalize the decision before we were supposed to arrive at their house. We have an older brother that was previously adopted. I guess if you think it's sad that I don't know my biological parents, I've never actually wanted to know my biological parents because as far as I'm concerned, my parents are the ones that reared me and loved me and took care for me, held me in the middle of the night when I was sick. There's really no attachment to anybody else. I know that we always knew that we were adopted from the beginning, and that was something a little unusual because back in the 50s, that was something that was kept very private, was not as accepted as it is now. But my parents always read us this little book called The Chosen One, which my sister now has because she has 3 adopted children. I think that it was God's work that we were placed in the family that we were given. I had 2 very loving parents that I was very close with. And I think the most important thing is they gave us hope and gave us a future.
I don't know who my biological parents were. My parents took me right home from the hospital when I was 3 days old. They expected to get me from the lawyer who they were working with, but it took a long time to get me out of the hospital. My biological mother had some trouble giving me up, but she was finally able to do it after a few hours. For me, being adopted is really something special. I think that someone was willing to say, I can't be a good mother to you or a good father to you and be willing to give me up. And then for my parents who got me right out of the hospital, basically, have just loved me so much as they would any child. And I love them back. I've had no desire to meet my biological parents. I know some adopted kids do, some don't. I think it's funny when people feel sorry for me about being adopted. I've never felt sorry about it at all. In fact, there's a little plaque that my mother has that it says something to the effect that you just happened, I was chosen.
And I was adopted when I was born. When you're adopted, there are 2 questions that everyone will always ask you. The first question will be, have you always known you're adopted? And the second question will be, have you ever wanted to find your natural parents? The first question, yes, I've always known I was adopted. The second question they'll always ask you is, have you ever wanted to look for your natural parents? And my answer is, when God gave you perfection to begin with, why need to look for anything else? And that's truly how I feel. I feel like I was a gift, and I feel like they were a gift to me. And I feel very blessed. When someone asks me or says to me that they feel sorry that I'm adopted, they truly don't understand the joy and the purpose of adoption through a Christian home. Because you're never sorry that you're adopted, because you truly know what a blessing that those parents are to you and that you are to those parents.
I was adopted at 20 years of age by my stepfather, and chose to do that later in life for a variety of reasons. But because of that choice to have that occur later in my life, it bore out a lot of significance for me, I think more so than it would have if it had occurred as a child. One of the things that became significant to myself and my dad at that time, I remember very specifically as a spiritual parallel in my adoption process, was that we talked about how in many cultures adopted children can't be legally disowned. And that just was so significant to me in relationship also to how we fit into the Lord's kingdom once we're saved, we have that security of knowing that we're His children, and there's no losing that. And that was really significant to me, too, in my relationship with my earthly dad, and what that translated to in terms of all the spiritual parallels between earthly adoption and kingdom adoption.
The day we got Sierra was the most magical time. I got to hold Sierra first, and it was kind of funny. They brought her out, and when we had gotten her picture, she had hair, and then when we got her, they had shaved her head. And at first we were concerned they gave us the wrong child, but after they reassured us that it was truly hers, I remember holding her and saying, Kelly, she's ours. And it was the best feeling I've ever had in my life.
Currently, we are in the process of adopting 2 more children. We're adopting a little boy. He is right now about 15 months old, and a little girl who she is currently about 5 months old. And this process has been so different from the first time around. It's just unbelievable what a different experience it's been. Currently, we are waiting basically for the phone call to go get Tanner and Amara, and they are both from Vietnam, so we'll be in Vietnam for, they say, approximately 2 to 4 weeks, but we don't really know exactly how long we'll be there. We're praying for 2 weeks because we are not taking Sierra with us, so that'll be a challenge to be gone from her and separated for an extended period of time. But we're so excited to bring Amara and Tanner home. We had not thought that we would, in the last year and a half, we had not thought we would be able to adopt 2 children, which was really our heart's desire.
And it started out even because we thought we would be easily a year and a half to 2 years from now being able to go through this process. And then last fall, we were approached by Pastor Boehm, and he said, there's a family in the church who would like to give you a significant amount as long as you never know who they are. And then from there, we tried to pick the ages, and that didn't work. And it's worked out so amazing now that we can see God's plan in all of this, that Tanner and Amara are the ones that God has for us.
Tanner is 15 months old. He's the older of the 2. And he has a cleft lip and cleft palate on both sides, a double. And so as a result of that, he's at 15 months old, which is a little old for them. They usually like to see them start those repair very early on in their childhood, simply because it does impair their nutritional status and their growth and development. And as a result, he's quite small, they say. So very quickly after we get home, we will be seeing a plastic surgeon to try to begin the repair process for his cleft lip and palate.
People ask all the time, is it worth it to adopt? And it is just absolutely priceless. We would pay so much more to have them as a part of our lives. And the thought of not having them, I can't even think about that.
We have actually, through this process of being adoptive parents, had people suggest to us that you can't love adopted children as much as you would love biological children. And that is, I can't even begin to imagine how I could love. To be perfectly honest, I've struggled with the thought that I could love a biological child as much as I could love my adopted children. One of the things about being a parent that I didn't expect, and I think every parent experiences, is how much you can love your kids. And ours wasn't just a matter of, we decided to conceive children, and within 6 months to a year, we were expecting. We were 5-6 years in this journey of parenthood, and I cannot begin to stress to you, I couldn't believe that I could love her so much before I even saw her. I had her picture, and I loved her. And it's the same way with Tanner and Amara. I love them already, and I haven't even met them.